Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk to y'all about quite a few things here. Some of it's going to be a review, depending upon how long people have been listening to what I've been saying and sharing on my posts and whatnot. Some of it will be a review. I wouldn't necessarily call it redundant, just a review, because I think it's an important review. And others of it might be some new information. Maybe people know, maybe people don't. And then some things I've been thinking about. I'm on the road quite a bit, so I have quite a bit of time to think. My mind goes in all kinds of different directions and so forth. And a lot of times I reminisce, or I wouldn't necessarily say get nostalgic necessarily, but reminisce, or I think about things that I've seen before or watched before or heard about, and kind of putting it all together, as we are in July now, today being July 2nd, 2 days just before the 3-day weekend, holiday weekend. So I just thought it would be appropriate to do a podcast like this, kind of a drive and talk like this. So no particular order, but these are the things that I've been thinking about, and these are the things that have been coming to my mind over the last, day or so. Mostly last night, earlier this morning. And I shared a post earlier today where I was talking about the, past events of July, things that I think might be significant, historically speaking, things that I was made aware of. And I remember what I was doing or where I was, which is kind of interesting for me personally, because a lot of times I can't remember a whole lot, but I do remember where I was and what I was doing when certain things took place. And focusing specifically on July, the first thing that comes to my mind is, like I posted earlier, I think July is a very significant month. I guess you could say prophetically speaking, but these are the things that I remember. Maybe some of you remember these things too about July. The first thing that comes to my mind that I can't escape from is, well, I would say escape from, but you know what I'm saying. That's just the first thing that comes to my mind is I believe it was July of 2017. It might have been later than that. I don't recall the exact year, but I do remember hearing earlier in the year Pastor Benjamin Faircloth putting out a word that I found very interesting, and I was watching that whole year pretty much of what this means. What does it mean exactly? And the word was, in the month of red, blood will be shed. That was the word that he said that he had received. In the month of red, blood will be shed. And he got that in January. And like I said, I really don't recall the year. It might have been 2017, 2018, 2019. It was several years back. People could look it up themselves if they want to, because a specific event happened in July of that year. And I'll get into it in a second. But when he gave that word, I remember thinking, well, February could be like a month of red, Valentine's, hearts, and, roses, flowers, stuff like that. Red carnations. I guess carnations might be red, maybe not. Pink, whatever. But anyway, I was just thinking February might be a month of red. But then February passed, and it really wasn't all that significant. And I was saying, okay, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe May? Mother's Day, red roses, red flowers, that could kind of be considered red to a certain extent. Maybe May would be the month. I don't know. I was just wondering. And then May passed, and not really. But then we came to July. And if memory serves, it was early in July. And a very significant event happened. And I wouldn't necessarily say it was a catalyst, but it did get a lot of attention at the time. But because we're in a 24/7 news cycle, and there's so much we get bombarded with, and so much information all the time, everything kind of seems like it just kind of jumbles together, and nothing seems to be that drastic or that significant or that major, because unless it's like a really traumatic mass casualty type event, something that really gets people's attention, like September 2001 or something, where it really shuts everything down and people are scared, and unfortunately there's a lot of death and injuries, and people have to reevaluate their life and reevaluate their situation, reevaluate their spiritual health, their physical health, just their overall life in general. We haven't had that basically since that day. But this was very interesting. It was that summer, that July, early in July, that Dallas police officers were ambushed and attacked. And I remember watching, because at the time we had cable, we were living in Florida, I think I had DirecTV or something. I think it was on Fox News or whatever. And I remember sitting there and I remember watching this. And then of course, contact Pastor Ben, and he may have mentioned it publicly, I don't recall exactly, but I know he told me. And I was just like, is this it? He goes, yeah, that's it. In the month of red, blood will be shed. So July was the month of red, where unfortunately at that particular time, these Dallas police officers were attacked and ambushed, and some were killed and injured. And I remember that, and I was like, wow. Well, then it began to make sense to me for personal reasons, okay? Because July is significant to me personally, because like today is my father-in-law's birthday in July. My dad's birthday is coming up in July. My uncle's and my birthday is also in July. So that's always significant to me. And then in the past, specifically on my birthday, there were blood moons in July. So I'm like, man, this is weird. July is just kind of strange to me on a personal level. But I remember going back to what Pastor Bennett said, I remembered it being the month of red, blood will be shed. I'm like, okay, well, what else makes it red? Besides, red, white, and blue, the flag, Independence Day, red fireworks in the sky, things of that nature. What else though? I mean, and then I remembered the birthstone in July is the red ruby. So I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. And then I had this t-shirt that I wear usually around Memorial Day, July 4th or whatever. And it's a red t-shirt, and it actually says red on it, but it stands for Remember Everyone Deployed. And it has the flag on it and everything. And it's pretty old now. I've had it for many years. But I just always kind of look at that as it's a red t-shirt. It says red on it, Remember Everyone Deployed, with the flag on it. And like I said, I usually wear it around Memorial Day and, July 4th holiday or what have you. So as I'm contemplating the things of July, and how important this month could be, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. And then I think of other historical events that happen in July. Like, for instance, supposedly we put a man on the moon. Sorry. But supposedly we did. What was that, July 20th or something of 1969? Whatever the date was, 1912. I don't remember exactly. I think that's what it was. I can't remember the exact date. And then Bruce Lee died in July 20th of 1973. I remember that one because I've always liked Bruce Lee. I just always liked his movies and watched all of his movies. My brother and I grew up watching Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris movies and martial arts and all that stuff. So I remember his birthday, was in July. Or actually, that's his death date. Excuse me. He was born in November. I apologize. He died then in July of 1973. So, I mean, people say, there's no significance to that. No, there probably isn't. I'm just saying, for me personally, these are the things I remember about July, right? And then And then, like I mentioned previously on my post and so forth, it was Dumitru Duduman that actually came to the United States after being tortured in the Romanian prison, you know, where he was finally released. And it was in July, I think of 1984, I believe, is when he came to the United States from Romania and gave the word for America, wake up America, and basically predicting, prophesying through a vision or through the words that the angel gave him, according to his testimony, what was going to happen to America, Mystery Babylon, Sodom and Gomorrah, you name it, in the future. That happened in July, where he came to America. I don't think he got the actual message until August, but it happened in July to where he came to America. So I'm like, wow, there's a lot of significance about this month, about the things of July. And I know I'm missing a ton of stuff as well. I mean, if you go through and you look at, do a search or whatever, significant events in the month of July or whatever, you probably find a ton of stuff. But those are the things that come to my mind right now, because of the month that we're in and the time that we're in. So now, bringing it to the current day, there is a lot of talk, and I got to give credit here for Jesus is the Only Way channel that shares a lot of YouTube shorts of very good information. Green-Eyed Okie is who it is. And for a young woman to be as young as she is, she's pretty with it. So I got to give her a lot of credit, because she shares a lot of stuff that I'm able to share to warn people about, inform people about, from the things that she finds and just puts out there as YouTube shorts. And then another dude who's not even an American as far as I know, maybe he is, but he lives in Norway, I believe, by the name of Ginter. He shares a lot of her videos, and then he shares the links in the comments section of my videos or posts or whatever, so I can get that out to you guys, because it's a team effort. It's a team effort to get the information out that may save lives, okay? And I don't think I'm being an alarmist in saying that. And the reason I say that is, if people look at my post from earlier, the things people have shared that I have reshared and whatnot, you listen to the warning from Dr. David Martin, whether you believe it or not. And then there was another one I just shared a few minutes ago, again, from Jesus is the Only Way channel, Green-Eyed Okie. Man, I don't know what to say other than the fact it's good to get the information out and the warning out. Now, nobody can guarantee that anything is going to happen on any specific day or time. I don't care who they are. And if you believe anybody that says that they know when the rapture is, they know when this is happening, they know when that's happening, they know that at a specific date and time, this and that, I could show you tons of times where they got it wrong. Where 99.9% of the time, it's going to be wrong. There may be one or two things they might get right. People might get right on a specific day or time. Maybe. Because, hey, even a broken clock is right, twice a day. Okay? But as far as very significant events where people say that such and such is going to happen on this day at this time or whatever the case may be, I guarantee you that 99.9%, 9999%, they're going to be wrong. So we don't know. Okay? So I'll just put that out there right off the bat. Okay? We don't know. However, there is a lot of information from not only Dr. David Martin, but Deborah Tavares, who talked about it on Israeli News Live with Stephen Ben-Danoon, and Stephen Jackson, JWTV. Quite a few people, probably a bunch of other channels I've missed. I know Off-Grid Desert Farming, Paul has mentioned it a few times. Alex Jones apparently got on board a couple days ago and talked about it. It's important enough that people need to be made aware of it. And I don't expect anybody to share this video or anything, because who likes looking at a black screen? I get it. Okay, that's just the way I do it. All right, but share out the post if you want to. Go to the post, the community page, or used to be the community page, and share out that information. Send it out, text it out, put it on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever, Substack, whatever. Get it out there. People say, well, I'm going to look like a fool. Hey, welcome to my world, okay? Because if it doesn't happen, you're right, you will look like a fool. You'll look like a fearmonger, you'll look like an alarmist, you'll look like a conspiracy theorist, you'll look like somebody that doesn't know what the heck you're talking about, and your credibility will be all shot, okay? I don't want to swear, but it will be shot, okay? Welcome to my world, okay? But here's the thing. It's a crapshoot, okay? It's a 50-50. It's Russian roulette, okay? If you don't say anything, like if I don't say anything, I don't share this, I don't take the time while I'm driving. I mean, I could listen to the radio, listen to CDs, I could listen to other podcasts or broadcasts or whatever I want to listen to, or just have complete silence and have the window down and the cool breeze coming in, which will be a lot cooler than my air conditioning. It doesn't work that well. I mean, there's a lot of things I could do, but I'm choosing to do this because I believe in my heart that it's important enough to put this information out, that there is a good possibility that on July 4th, that's the date that they're saying. It could be later than that, it could be earlier than that, I don't know. But the date that is being mentioned, like I said, most of the time dates are completely wrong. 99.99% of the time they will be. However, on the off chance that this is correct, we could be looking at a bioterror attack on this nation on July 4th, where it would affect hundreds of thousands of people in I don't know how many major metropolitan areas, cities, whether it be one or several, I don't know. But I'm going to tell you what I've seen in the past. Movies, television shows, specifically two that come to mind, that lead me to believe that not only is this possible, but it could likely happen in a way where people may not even know it at the time. Because when you're dealing with biotoxins, like a biological terror attack, you may not know that you're affected at that time. It may take some time before people recognize that, before they realize it. Now, that may not always be the case, but you may not know right away. So let me explain, okay? When I was in the military, we would train, like I said, this is kind of the review part. I've talked about this several times over the last several years, mostly on the main channel that was taken down, but I've mentioned it on this one too. It was called NBCR, Nuclear, Biological, Chemical, Radiological Training, okay? Where they would teach us how to deal with certain attacks, how to counter them, certain things that you may have to carry on your person. They would call it, especially as hospital corpsmen, with Marine units and whatnot, to not only save yourself but save others, like atropine injectors, things of that nature. Okay, certain medications, certain things that would not be available to the civilian population to counter bioterror, to counter bioterrorism. Okay, so it was called NBCR at the time, and they would teach us all of these different things, the different types of equipment, the different types of clothing, the gloves, the mask, the headgear, you name it, okay? And we would train in that because the possibility always exists that there could be an attack upon a military base, or when you're out in the field or the desert or whatever it is, where you could be attacked in this way, and you have to be prepared for these type of attacks. Well, now they call it CBRN, Chemical, Biological, Radiological, Nuclear. So they've just kind of turned the words around or twisted the abbreviation around, but it's the exact same type of thing. Okay, there's no difference here. Now, two things come to my mind that I have seen one more recently than the other, where I just recall these things. At the time, it might have been years and years and years ago. I don't really understand exactly what I'm watching, or I may not be able to put the pieces together at the time, but it's like later on down the road, like many years down the road, and I recall these things. And the first thing I remember was season 3 of the television show 24, where in that particular season, not the whole thing, but at least a portion of the season, there was a release of a virus that they called the Cordelia virus. That's what it was called, the Cordelia virus. I just remember the name of it, okay? And it was incredibly contagious and very, very deadly, very fatal for anybody that contracted this. The problem is, well, how they did it in the show was as a test run for test subjects. They released it into the ventilation system of a hotel. And then they trapped everybody in the hotel where all of these people would die and they would all be contagious. So if they even left the hotel, anybody they came in contact with, and it didn't have to be through anything other than speaking, that's how contagious they were. They could not come in contact with another human being outside the hotel, or this would spread like wildfire and everybody else would get sick and die too. So once it was released in the ventilation system in the hotel, then people could not leave and everybody was going to die. There was no cure. So the only thing they could do would be to call their loved ones from the hotel or whatever and, tell them goodbye. Very horrific, very tragic, very horrible. But a good possibility, if you want to release a bioterror weapon upon the population, the general populace, okay? Now, as far as that being more realistic for our date and time, people may recall this, but in France, I don't know, about a week or so ago, supposedly people claimed that they were stuck by something. They were stuck with a needle. They were pinpricked. Now, I didn't hear about what happened after that, but I found that very intriguing that like 145 people or something, whatever it was, said they were in a large crowd. They were somewhere and, with large groups of people, and they were pinpricked. And they felt like the pinprick, and I guess they got really sick. I don't know. I didn't hear anything further about it. But just the fact that that was reported really intrigued me, because it got me thinking about all of these other things. And not only that season, but I think it was season 5 as well as 24, they had another situation where there were bioterror attacks. I mean, the whole show at 24, they either dealt with nuclear or bioterror attacks for the most part. It's crazy, I mean, pretty much every single season, they were dealing with something that was going to kill a lot of people, just wipe out a large population in a major U.S. city or cities. Most of the time it was Los Angeles, but sometimes it might have been D.C. or somewhere else. So, but this was particularly interesting to me because years later, we all had Corona and so forth, okay? Many, many years later, 20 years later, or not quite 20 years later, but I think this was 2003, this season came out. But anyway, so you have the capability, let's put it that way, of a release of a toxin upon the general public. Now, what would be the best way to attack in this way where people may or may not even know that they're being attacked, okay? Because they may not feel it at the time. They may not know at the time. In season 3 of 24, they didn't know it at the time. They didn't get sick till later, okay? Kind of sound a little familiar? They didn't know. So what if something like that were to occur, and Dr. David Martin is right, what Preparedness reported on is right, what Stephen Jackson talked about is right. Off-grid desert farming. What if they happen to be right? Even myself, to a certain extent, talking about it now. The question being is, where do people want to be? If you are in a large major city metropolitan area, I can tell you where you probably don't want to be. You probably don't want to be at any parades, any ball games, stadiums. Most likely it would be outdoor, would be my guess, that they would release this, because that's how, if it was a biotoxin that was airborne, and most likely it would be, you probably would not want to be downtown, large groups of people, large gatherings, stadiums, parades, anything of that nature, where there's going to be large groups of people gathering on lawns or, wherever to watch fireworks, beaches, lakes, whatever. Now, most likely it would be major metropolitan areas and cities. However, if this is a test run for something later down the road, then it might be a smaller venue. It might be in a more rural area, smaller town. But my guess would be, most likely, it wouldn't be a test run, and they would want to do, they meaning whoever the evil scumbags are that perpetrate this crime against humanity, whatever they would want to do to cause as much pain and death and misery and fear as possible, which is basically what terrorism is. It's just fear. It's just promoting and stoking fear. You'd probably hit a major city or cities in a combined attack. That would be my guess. That would be most likely what people trained in counterterrorism or whatever would most likely be trained for, to respond to. That would be my guess, okay, on this whole thing. Now, the other thing I remember was Mission Impossible 2, which is probably the worst of all of them, maybe other than the first, but anyway. But at the end, that whole movie had to do with the release of a virus that was very contagious, that would kill people within, I think it was 48 to 72 hours. And what would happen is someone would contact this, and then the terrorists would release them. In this case, it was Sydney, Australia, right in downtown Sydney, and anybody that was in the area of Sydney, Australia, downtown Sydney, Australia, would automatically contact this, or contract this, because that's how contagious this particular virus was in the movie, okay? So the only chance the person would have in not killing a lot of people inadvertently would be to get out of a large population as quickly as possible and just wait to die, because unless a cure could get to them in time, which it did in the movie, but that's a movie, okay? In reality, what have we seen over the past 5 years that people want to deny, that say that it's not this, it's not that, blah, 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 but it's killing people constantly. And it's gotten to the point for me personally that I stopped sharing stuff about it. I stopped talking about it, because I did for years. And even when I get tons of emails, matter of fact, a person, they send me, I said, you know what, you can still send me the emails, but I don't think I'm going to share this stuff anymore, because nobody is listening. If they do care, you wouldn't know it. And it makes you look like a fool, because we haven't seen the ramifications overall in such a way to where people can see that this is what is taking people out. This is what's killing people. There's all kinds of reports. There's all kinds of information out there, mostly outside the United States, where they do study after study after study, and they find that most of the people that took what I refer to as B shots are dying or are dead. But most people don't believe that, because it doesn't happen in their family. It's not happening in such a way that they can see it, that they can observe it, that they can witness it. It's not happening in such a massive way where people can say, yes, this is how this is happening. This is why this is happening. This is the consequence of this action. And so they ignore it or pretend it doesn't exist. And quite a few people may have taken placebos, and so maybe they're not as sick as they would be because of that, or maybe it just hasn't completely affected them as of yet. But I'm not gonna talk about it too much more, or share things about it too much more, because quite frankly, I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. I'm absolutely fed up with it. For the last 5 years or so, I have put out tons of information on this, shared to lots of people, not only in this channel, but the other channel, in private text messages and emails that most people ignore, in a mass email, tons and tons and tons of information. So it's just like, hey, if you don't get it by now, I don't know what to tell you. So, anyway, the point of this whole thing is, and I don't apologize for the length of it because it's important. The point of this whole thing is, if people are going to go celebrate, if they're going to get out in public, if they're going to do things with their family, friends, or whatever, if they're going to do things, take every precaution necessary, I would say. Avoid large groups and crowds as much as possible if you can. If not, okay, then always plead the blood of Jesus over yourself and your family and everything else. You can only do that if you're saved, though. So if you're not saved, then accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior today. Okay, shut me off at this particular time to do that for sure. Okay, because that's the most important thing. Because without that, no preps are going to matter. No, any other type of precautions are going to matter. Because, and I know people say also, it's like, well, if I get sick and I die and this and that, then the Lord's will be done, and I'm going to go out with my family and do this and enjoy the fireworks and go here and go to the stadium and go to the ball game and go do this and go do that, and the Lord's will be done, and if I die, I die, whatever else. Hey, whatever, okay? I'm just putting the information out there, and I am just telling people what I think could happen. And as we go further, as we head into this holiday weekend. But I have a question, though. You don't want to die this way. Or do you want to die this way, I should say. Because bioterrorism is not fun. I've seen it. I've trained for it. They made us watch videos. Not videos at the time. More VHS tapes, slideshows, whatever. We didn't have DVDs at the time. I've seen it. I know what bioterrorism does to people. You don't want to die this way. Okay? So, you can play Russian roulette with your life if you want to, but don't play Russian roulette with your kid's life, your grandkid's life, your husband, your wife's life, or whatever. Okay? I'm telling you, you don't want to die this way. It's miserable. You will wish you were dead before you die because you will be so sick and miserable. I mean, picture food poisoning times a million, okay? You don't want to die this way. Skin rashes, blotches, open sores, bleeding out of your eyes, bleeding out of orifices. I'm just going to tell you, you don't want to die this way, okay? I mean, they can put whatever they want in this bioterror concoction, okay? You don't want to die this way. I don't know how else to say it. If I'm scaring you, good. Because if I scare you enough to where you're smart and you're wise and you protect yourself and your family and you don't take unnecessary risks and you don't play Russian roulette and take a 50-50 chance, then good. Mission accomplished for me. Because I don't want this to happen. All right? But if it does happen, I'm going to do everything within my power through this particular video for as long as people are still listening and as long as people are still interested, that I can to help you to understand that this is no joke. If this gets released on the general population, in cities or major cities or even rural areas, small towns, whatever. You don't want this. All right? Now, getting to the rest of July, and I think I'm going to go ahead and end this thing. I'm almost to my destination. But getting to the rest of July, all right? I don't know how many people know this, but the dollar is crashing, okay? The David Wilkerson prophecy from like 1973, 74, which I find pretty interesting because this is the lowest the dollar has been and the most danger the dollar has been in since 1973. It is crashing, and it is crashing hard. So imagine if some type of bioterror attack occurs on our homeland on July 4th, over the weekend, what have you, but they say July 4th, okay? Imagine if that occurs, and or a massive Japanese earthquake, which has been talked about quite a bit, and tsunami that occurs from that, you know, it goes through the Pacific or whatever, and hits California, the Pacific coast or what. Imagine if all of that happens. Just say, for instance, it does. One or the other or both. Don't you think our economy is going to crash? I can pretty much guarantee it. So the dollar is already crashing. The David Wilkerson prophecy talks about Germany and Japan. Germany is falling apart, has been for a while, continues to. Check out Substack if people are subscribed to that. I share quite a few messages from the Substack to the post, the community page, the post or whatever. Check out Michael Snyder's article on it, the David Wilkerson prophecy from 73 or 74. It goes Germany, Japan, and then us, then the rest of the world, whatever, you know. But Japan's not looking good either. Hal Turner Radio Show put up an article about that, you know, where they're in trouble financially. So the global markets, the global economy is in deep trouble, okay? But specifically Germany and Japan, all right? So are we beginning to see the prophecy being fulfilled by David Wilkerson from like 1973, 74? We could be. It is a good possibility. So keep that in mind. And not only that, but say for instance we escape all of this. None of this happens. I'm completely wasting your time, my time, and everybody else's time, and none of this happens. It's total BS, total bunk. All right? Well, July 9th, that's when more of the tariffs are supposed to go into effect as well. So it doesn't get better. It doesn't get any better. It just gets worse and worse and worse. Okay? So keep that in mind, that July 9th, that's a date you might want to put on your calendar, the other tariffs begin to go into effect. And they're supposedly working with, from all the false peace, because it's really not real peace. It's really not even a ceasefire. Really, people are really paying attention to what's going on. It's just not as kinetic as it was. But with all the false peace and all the rest of this stuff, okay, they're going to try to push forward a two-state solution. Okay, so say they do that in July, by the end of July. Say for instance, or maybe it's August or whatever. Well, what do you think is going to happen according to prophecy or whatever? For many, many people throughout many, many years, what do you think will happen if we divide Israel's land? I'm not talking about synagogue of Satan. I'm not talking about Rothschild Jews. I'm not talking about the state of Israel. I'm talking about dividing the land. What do you think is going to happen to our land if we divide their land with a two-state solution? It's going to crack. New Madrid fault line. We will be in dire straits if they do this. So these are the things people need to be watching for, and it can all happen in July. So say, for instance, we get through this weekend, no big deal, everything's fine. I look like a fool, everybody else looks like a fool. You know, no, I'm not surprised. I told some friends, I said, it won't surprise me either way. If everything breaks loose and it all goes to hell this weekend, or if absolutely nothing majorly significant happens at all, I won't be surprised either way. Because that's the world I've been living in for the past 10 years. So I get it. I understand it. I accept it. You know, it is what it is. It's the way it goes. But if that's not the case, you better be prepared. You better be ready. Spiritually first, of course, but in other ways as well. You, your family, friends, people you care about. And even if we do escape it, even if nothing majorly happens this weekend, mark July 9th down, and then be paying attention to what's going on in the two-state solution, what's going on in Gaza. You know, what are they gonna do with that whole situation? You know, they say, oh, we want a ceasefire. We want a ceasefire. Israel agrees to the ceasefire. Hamas better agree to the ceasefire. Well, what if Hamas doesn't? Then what? What do you got up your sleeve then? Well, what kind of threat? What's going to happen then? I mean, give me a break. It's ridiculous. All right. But let's say Hamas does. Okay. Then what happens with Gaza? What do you think they're going to do to Gaza? Are we going to have Trump land? What's going to happen? What's going to happen to those children? What's going to happen to all the people in Gaza? What's going to go on there? Something to watch for, definitely. Something to be paying attention to. Something to be made aware of. Because eventually, all of this comes back on us. Israel and the United States, synonymous. Whether people want to recognize that or realize it or not. It's synonymous. Okay? Jacob's trouble, like Pastor Ben said, several months back, beginning of this year, this is the year of Jacob's trouble. Jacob's trouble will be our trouble. This is the year of Jacob's trouble. Jacob is having his trouble, and it will be our trouble. And if it's not yet, it will be. So keep all these things in mind. So, all right, I think I'm done now. Y'all have a good, blessed day. If I don't talk to you again before the holiday or what have you, I hope you're safe. I hope you're wise. You make good choices and decisions. Hey, if this is the last video, cool. If not, whatever. Lord's will be done. It probably won't be, because my mind's constantly going. I've always got stuff to say, talk about, whether people want to hear it or not, listen to it or not. But we'll see what happens, folks. If I got anything else, I'll probably make another video tonight or tomorrow or whatever, But I just wanted to let everybody know about this, give you as much heads up as I possibly can. This being the second, and then a lot of people might even take tomorrow off, have even a longer weekend or whatever, because, man, the 4th being on a Friday, it'll probably begin on a Friday. We'll see. We'll see. The warnings have been out there for many, 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 many years. It's just whether people want to heed them or not. All right, I'm done. Y'all take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.